when we talked about this podcast, we were thinking about the idea of how words have consequences.
They do.
Right? And also silence or lack of words have consequences. So that's just the overall theme here. This isn't specifically fit into it exactly, but we'll get there. So a good friend of mine named Craig Couch, he has an email list and I'm on it. So I'm going to read you the whole email, which I just think is awesome.
Okay.
He says, in the marketing world, attribution is something that must be tracked closely. Dedicating ad spend and blindly hoping it converts is a quick way to burn cash. Knowing where the sales are coming from is a matter of analyzing data. Living in the business environment makes it easy to assume it will also work in relationships. Studying data outcomes is a long way from the reality of someone's motives. Trying to get into someone else's head to figure out why they did or didn't do something is a fundamental attribution error. Coming to conclusions with your guesses is, and wait for this word, assumicide. Pro tip. If you think someone is being malicious or careless, ask them directly. Say something like, I get the impression that you were late to the meeting because you don't see it as important. Is that true? Saying nothing and resenting them is chicken shit.
Oh, brilliant. Can we say that?
We can say
Can
that.
we use the word nothing? Did I?
We rarely say words like that.
No, we don't say them.
I'm quoting Craig's wonderfully written email.
Brilliantly
and
written.
I replied to him and said, loved that email.
Excellent email.
Yeah.
Also, Chris, you know what you said, malice and so on. My wife has a great saying. She does not claim it's hers, but she said sometimes we attribute malice to mere ignorance.
Oh.
So someone can be doing something purely out of not knowing, and they say, "Oh, he's doing that on purpose." We've got to be very careful about assigning malice when it may not be the case.
We talked about this a bit in the last podcast episode, but we're not, as hypnotists and humans, we are not freaking mind readers. So rather than staying silent, because silence has an effect, right? Words have consequences, and lack of words have consequences. Ask people for their actual information. Ask people for the information that you need.
Brilliant. In fact, you know, they said about the whole thing about words having an effect. I might have told you this. Heather and I were at the Pantages Theatre in Toronto, beautiful theater. We're in this lobby area, and everyone was sort of being funneled on the break, jammed in pretty tight. I think it was the Pantages. And there was a fairly big guy, 40s, standing there ahead of us, and he was about 3 people ahead. And all of a sudden, the crowd couldn't move, and people were trying to get up the stairs. This guy yells, "Fire!
Oh,
fire! We're all going to die!" He yells this and then bursts out laughing. Heather said, "Let it go." If I could have gotten to him, I would have neck cranked, taken him to the ground, and made sure that he was freaking charged for that. He does it as a joke. It's ignorance. It's not malicious. He's not trying to kill anyone. But people who panic, yelling fire, can you imagine the absolute lunacy of doing that? It infuriated me. And it's that thing, you say, you're right to swing your fist. When you hear the clever way I'm wording this.
Okay.
You're right to swing your fist ends where the other person's nose begins. Okay.
Yes, very good.
And they say, freedom of speech is the right to yell. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You have to rein it in, right? So here's my line. Freedom of speech is the right to yell theater at a crowded fire. That's freaking brilliant. I don't know if anyone else ever came up with that, but I think it's original.